Good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to Emma's Market Spotlight on Mexico. It's really great to see so many of you here. My name is Michelle Ronquillo, and I am Emma's event manager. Just a little bit about us. Within Emma, we unite music managers organizations across 13 European countries, which represent more than 2,000 managers across Europe. We've made it our mission to strengthen European managers globally through the Empower program, which encompasses education, advocacy, networking, and research. Emma is a project co-founded by the European Union. If you want to know more about us, or if you want to stay up to date with the upcoming events, make sure to visit our website, follow us on social media, join our WhatsApp group, sign up to our newsletter. You can find all the links in the chat in a little bit. Within the chat, there is also a general manager contact list, which you can use it, and you can leave also your contact details there and find the details of other managers. Also, when you log off Zoom at the end of the session, a super brief survey will pop up. Please take a moment to fill it out, as your feedback is super important for us. I'm going to share the agenda of the day. Today we are in very good company, and the session will be moderated by our Executive Director, Jess Patricia. And yes, just make sure that you add all of your questions to the chat, and we'll make sure that they get answered. And without further ado, over to you, Jess.
Thanks so much, Michelle. And again, thank you everyone for being here. We really appreciate it, especially with various heat waves hitting across Europe and storms and of course the football. So yes, it's great to see you all. I'm really, really happy to have such amazing guests here today. Mexico is a super interesting market to me personally. I think it's really exciting. There's lots of just lots happening, lots of interesting companies, and I hope to dig into it a bit more in this session. I do want to add that if you have any questions, please put them in the chat at any point. I will be keeping a strong eye out for them and making sure that I ask them as soon as possible. So if you, just really, really make sure you do that, because we want to make sure you get the knowledge that you need from this session. And the only way of doing that is by having you ask questions. So without further ado, before I introduce everyone, we are very honored to have the wonderful Malfi Dorantes giving us a presentation of the market, an overview of it. So Malfi, if you'd like to take it away, we'd really appreciate that.
Hey everyone, I'll be really quick because I know keynotes. Sorry, a hit or miss. So I'll be really quick, and also the people that are here with us are really, really, really valuable, and I'm so excited to hear them speak. I myself get a burst of creativity whenever I talk to each of them, so I'm excited to also let them speak as much as they can and answer your questions. I am Malfi Dorantes. I am founder of a PR and press agency called MalfiCo. We've been working for 12 years in the PR market, and now we finally started marketing. It took us a while, but we are solely based on music, and we work with labels such as Ninja Tune, Hype, and Virgin, and Universal. And we also are global strategists. We help a lot of export offices to understand the market and start a focused plan for their artists in the Mexican territory. And we've worked with practically every single country in Europe. We focus a lot in Korea and also the Scandinavians. So we know a lot about what questions might be asked in this chat. So that's pretty cool.
And yeah, it's already, we can see some trends coming out of this, coming to the forefront. So yeah, let's move forward with getting everyone to introduce themselves. And I will just go around in the order you are on my screen. So no favorites. But Patricia, do you want to start us off? Tell us a bit more about yourself and your role in the Mexican market.
Sure. So I live in Tenerife, but my main business is in Mexico. I am a music supervisor specialized in movies and series. I also have been working in authors' rights and neighboring rights for more than 20 years in the music industry. And I go around doing these panels and talks and sharing my knowledge to professionalize industries all over the world, so they know what are the basics, not only to think, but to commercialize their music in every media. And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Max, can you introduce yourself?
Hey there, I'm Max. I'm based in Mexico City myself. I have sort of two parts of what I do. One is I manage musicians as a part of Vitalic Noise, and this is looking after their global careers. And I also have a company, we have a company called Movida Musica, in which we help artists from around the world expand their careers into Latin America. So this is via sort of 360 a la carte service, in which we have PR services, we have label services, we have a label, we have a booking agency, and talent buying.
Awesome. Thanks. And last but not least, Ali.
Hi everyone, my name is Ali. I'm based in Mexico City. I'm a promoter at OCESA. I mainly specialize in electronic music. That's why I do this in Mexico, along with our partners from the US that are called Insomniac. And you know, OCESA, as Malfi said, is the biggest promoter in Mexico. We do more than 20 festivals in Mexico, like all around the country. We do a lot of concerts from all sizes, and it's a pleasure to meet you all.
Thanks so much. So with that, with Ali, you going last, this is kind of perfect. I want to start actually talking about the live industry kind of straight away. We all know that that's like a great way to export, and a lot of artists export their music that way. So it would be great to get a better insight on the opportunities for maybe like not just DIY artists, but maybe mid-level artists in terms of coming over to Mexico and building their live show. Like, how do they need to plan, and what needs to be in place before they come across? What do we need to know about the Mexican industry and setup, particularly when it comes to live? Ali, do you have any insights?
Yeah, I mean, the key thing, at least that helps a lot, OCESA, is that we work all around the country. So it's easy for us to bring artists, no matter where they are from, because it's easy for us to tour. And another very important thing is not that we're not just able to tour in Mexico. It's very easy for artists to come and try to tour in the US as well, because Mexico is very close to to North America. It's just a 2-3 hour flight to LA. It's a 3 hour flight from Dallas. It's a 5 hour flight to Florida. It's very, very close, Mexico to the US. So it's in a very key position where artists can come to Mexico, and they can also tour in the US, which I know it's very important for some artists as well.
Mm-hmm.
But what we mainly do is we try to focus on bringing artists and our festivals to give them a place where they can like show themselves. You know, it's very important for them to get for the fans to see them. Like, people don't know this a lot, but Mexico has so many people that is very, very easy that even though managers are not aware of it, there's a lot of people in Mexico that know their band and that they really want to see their band. So coming to like a small festival, or even, I don't know, I'm just gonna make an idea here because I'm a DJ promoter. Let's say Eric Pritz is coming to Mexico City, and your artist fits a lot with Eric Pritz, and he's playing Mexico City. So it's a cool idea to reach out, and be like, I have the perfect artist that I know can like open for Eric Pritz. And we're happy to like work on that too, For us, it's very important to show all type of music in Mexico, because Mexico, it's a very open market. Like, there is very diverse. Everybody's willing to listen to everything. So that's the main things we do. Like, it's important for artists to know and be aware that in Mexico, people do listen to their music. So all they need to do is just throw it out there, like try to.
Yeah, you seem. Oh,
tables.
sorry. I don't know whether.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no, sorry. My internet is a little bit unstable at this. I'm in a hotel room, so sometimes that happens. Anyway, so No, it seems like you're a really, really engaged audience, and that's hugely important. There's a question here about trends, which I kind of want to throw open to everyone, like especially when it comes to live music. Are there particular trends that you're seeing people consume, like much more people going out to electronic music, or lots of kind of underground rock shows? Like what are the trends that everyone's seeing? Ali, you can go first, but anyone can kind of say what they see.
Honestly, it's just like everything. Like I know it's more like a new thing, because TikTok is growing and stuff. But like we've seen how like videos from TikTok that can be also shown in like Facebook and Instagram and all those platforms. Those are like very important in Mexico because just one video that shows like a good song from an artist can help an artist like really explode in Mexico. Like it can really help an artist to be known in Mexico. I mean, that's a small example that I have is that's what happened to Rufus Du Sol. They were already like a big band. They were already known in Mexico, but then all of a sudden there was this like small time in Mexico where like their song Inner Bloom just was trending all over the like videos, and not just like their video, like the song of the video, just like any type of video with their song on the background. And just like that, next time they came to Mexico City, we sold more than 25,000 tickets in Mexico City, more than 15,000 tickets in Guadalajara and Monterrey. So it's very important just to, try to have that special moment in a song that people are aware of and use it on videos.
Does anyone else want to pop in about the Max? Go for it.
Yeah, what Ali is saying about it being sort of that everything can do well here resonates quite a lot, and that I think that coming from an international perspective, even from I'm originally from the United States myself, I think it's very easy to lose sight of just how enormous the population in Mexico is. And that, for example, within Mexico City, where many of us are based, the population is larger than that of New York City, for example, substantially. And for that reason, you can dig in and find a niche for anything that you can imagine. There's going to be something for left field electronica. There's going to be really heavy metal stuff that'll work well. There's going to be obscure genres of pop music or Balkan music, whatever it is. There will always be a bizarrely large fan base that you are able to tap into if you find the right way to do it.
In terms of music in audiovisual media, specifically movies and series, we have a trend going on in the last, 5 years of music supervisors looking for music in other languages. So we still work with a lot of music in Spanish, but this trend is catching up, and we are using music not only in English, but also French, Italian, German. So don't be afraid to just send a sample of, a sampler of your music to music supervisors in Mexico. We've just established the Association of Music Supervision for Spanish-speaking supervisors and other key people in the sync industry. We are 47 right now, and we have a list of people wanting to join. So we'll be soon like getting out there like the information so you can get in touch with us, and you can send your music. I'm gonna share in the chat a link to, we have an official Disco account, so you can send the association directly your music. But there is a trend of us using this music that has to do with also the way we grew up in Mexico. We listen to all kinds of music from everywhere, and this is the way we have been growing up since, I don't know, the 60s or 40s. So we listen to music in every language. So yeah.
Amazing. I think just to say as well that Mexico has always had a strong affinity with electronic music from the outside. Like I think everyone has always viewed that. So I do want to share the EMI electronic music report as well in the chat there for anyone who who might want to check that out or find that relevant. There's a lot of great information in there. So, so yeah, just to come back to the live elements, in terms of cities, you mentioned Malfi covered a lot of the areas, but we also saw like Monterrey mentioned a lot. And you're talking about how huge Mexico City is. Is Mexico City the best place to start, or does it make more sense to go somewhere else and start off with one of the smaller markets in order to build from there?
I think Ali and Max have more experience on this. I'm just gonna let them talk.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I wasn't aiming the question at you.
Yeah, I can maybe chime in a bit of sort of the way that when artists from the rest of the world are structuring the concept of touring, looking into Mexico, how it goes about a lot of the time, sort of where to start. So what ends up being the case way more often than not is if an artist is sort of on the up and up on an international basis, coming from whether from the US or from Australia, from Europe, is that typically they are signing with one of the major agencies of which y'all are probably very familiar, the names of being UTA, WME, CAA, Wasserman, and that it's a sort of peculiar relationship with international artists with those agencies as relates to Latin America. And that these agents, they'll be based usually in Los Angeles or New York, maybe Nashville, will say, oh yeah, we're going to represent you exclusively for all of Latin America, which means that probably they know people in most of the 50 states of the United States. They'll know like 7 guys in Canada, and then they might know Ali. And that's basically it a lot of the time. And that it's a sort of peculiar business model, and that these agents, they have such a high volume business model that it's not necessarily in their interest to be proactively developing new relationships within territories that they don't speak the language in, that they don't necessarily understand. So there are a few exceptions to this, in which the vast majority are fairly passive. They'll tell you that they will proactively work with you across Mexico, across Latin America, but more so they just want the exclusivity to take in anything that's incoming. There are a few exceptions, and that's something I think to be very vigilant of. A few examples are TBA agency has some agents out of the US that do really well. Within the dance music space, Liaison focuses fairly well. There is a specific representative from WME for doing some servicing within Latin America to varying degrees of success as well. But in terms of sort of getting back to the initial question, it's a peculiar thing, and that you might ask your agent, who would be the traditional person to be helping set up a tour, oh, I want to be routing through various cities in the same way that you would anywhere else in the world. And that's what the sort of traditional trajectory might be, is to set up maybe a 3-city tour in which you might hit Monterrey, Guadalajara, and Mexico City. And that's something that either finding the right agency partner to help work with you, or really digging into personal contacts, whether it's actually directly speaking with promoters. It's a difficult landscape to navigate, I'll be entirely honest, and that Ali can help you with this, but also much of the time when Ali is helping you, it's with fairly established artists. So sort of figuring out how to bridge that gap is it's a fascinating sort of spot to figure out how to navigate.
And I mean, do you have any? Oh, sorry. No. I was just going to say, any advice on how to bridge that gap effectively? Like, is it reaching out to venues directly? Is it, crafting a really strong email? What is getting the attention of these promoters if it's that kind of difficult space?
Yeah, I mean, something that I find that has worked really well for some of the artists that we have worked with in the past, it goes kind of counter to the general wisdom of touring like everywhere else in the world. And that a lot of the time, an agent, a promoter will tell you, don't come to this territory more than like once every 9 months or so. You'll end up sort of oversaturating. You won't be able to continue to sell tickets. Counterintuitively, what we have actually found to be somewhat successful is artists that just love actually spending time in Mexico. And that with a few of the artists, for example, a couple artists we worked with over the years, including Miami Horror, Stavros, there have literally been memes generated in which people are laughing at the fact like, oh, it seems like they must just have a house that they're living in Mexico City, spending a lot of time. And that, yeah, generating these relationships, sort of integrating into the culture can be really, really helpful. And directly having these communications. And I think that culturally here, the way in which people interact, it's very warm, it's very person to person. And yeah, speaking very directly in a not necessarily just sort of a cold email, but figuring out a way to have dinner with somebody, to share mezcal, whatever it is, can be much more effective than going a very sort of direct business route, as might be the case in many other parts of the world.
Sorry, Ali, did you want to add anything to?
Yeah, I think the key part that Max said was that last part, try to find the right context, but mostly trying to approach as a friend. I think one of the qualities that is like mostly well known from Mexicans, just as in like culture, is we're very friendly. We're more passionate to get to know people than just rather just jumping into business like in other parts in the world. So I think that approach, as in like, I mean, not trying to like pretend or something like that, but just trying to like genuinely trying to get to know the promoter or the venue contact or whatever. I think it's more interesting. It brings a closer approach for the promoter to know that he's working with someone worth their time and just someone that's probably just gonna send out a bunch of names, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like it makes it more personal for someone working on the other side to be like, okay, let's try to get to know this person, see if I can do business with him, try to get to know him, and then then we'll move from that. And gives honestly, maybe it might be more personal like that, as in my opinion, but it gives a better shot.
Nice. I like this advice of maybe, doing the opposite thing from just doing a few shows every 9 months. Like maybe go to Mexico City and do a few shows, like get in quite a few and just really work the market and make a big deal of it and get excited about it, get everyone excited about it. We will move on from live shortly, but Ali or Max, do you know when you're bringing artists internationally in, what's required of artists to show? Like, do you need a visa, a work visa? Do you need an invitation letter? Like, are payments fine? Do they work okay? Like, what do we have to watch out for in terms of that?
I mean, honestly, I've seen all types of things, but the easiest way, and that's the beautiful thing about Mexico, and that's how OCESA works, we just send out invitation letters, which is pretty easy. It's very easy for artists to come, with an invitation letter and just play. It's like no visas, no anything. There's no fees, like no consular fees, no nothing. It's very, very simple.
Very different from some of your neighbors. Very important to note. So that's super useful. And like what could be expected for maybe like a band doing their first few shows in Mexico City? A band that's doing okay, but not a big band. Like what can we expect fee-wise to be paid?
I think it really depends on the type of music. As in, like, I know like rock bands and pop bands are like better paid than DJs, let's say, as an example. But like I'm thinking, like, if we're looking at like a very small artist that just trying to put his name out there, their name out there. I'm thinking they're looking at around $5,000, something like that.
Okay.
Maybe a little less, maybe a little more. It depends on numbers in Mexico. I think that's what we're close to looking at. And there's also the conversation that they can get going from getting support of the promoter, or maybe trying to route different cities, and then it's 5,000 turn into like 15,000 if they do three cities.
Yeah.
Could be better.
Nice. It's always good to get a few specifics to start with so people can understand how realistically they can do it. So just quickly, festivals, we talked about some element of like, you've got a really good festival scene. Are there opportunities for emerging artists in the festivals in Mexico, or is it just mostly big artists, big festivals? Because we were talking about the big ones, but are there lots of community or smaller festivals as well? Anyone can do it.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I think that is not terribly disproportionate with the way that many festivals across the world function. And that, yes, there are the EDCs, Corona Capitales, which Ali and his team helped to organize, which are huge international festivals. They're bringing international headliners. But on those same lineups, there are, in EDC, for example, there are a number of local artists, as well as more indie festivals. For example, there's one called Baidora Festival, which is quite known of bringing sort of maybe not extremely established talents that they're able to sort of give a platform to. So I think that, yeah, much like within Europe, like within the United States, you have sort of the full range of possibilities.
Okay, cool. So yeah, just do your research and find those opportunities, target them, find the ones that are right for you, I guess.
Also, there are lots of like smaller venues because they have mentioned the big ones, and it's really difficult to get shows there if you're not really well known. But there are a lot of smaller venues, and deals with them are really easy to get. So, yeah.
Great. It feels like you're a very open country in terms of that, like very up for having international artists. And yeah, I mean, Patricia, you were saying that you're seeing sync trends for other languages. But generally, do you feel like the other languages, the music in other languages, especially English, German, some of the more widely spoken ones, is it easy enough to promote them there? Is it easy enough to get attention? Are they well listened to, or is it mostly Spanish speaking?
No, I think it's easy. And I think it's a matter of just getting in touch with the supervisors and seeing what's the best deal to get. Most of our licensing deals include like broad rights, which is also in context, promo in context. So those are like really good channels just to get out there. Mexico is also one of the places where Shazam is most used. So we really we are a very musical country. We are always listening to music on every single media. We are in public transportation listening to music on our devices, and then on work always listening to music. Like music is all around. So when we hear in a restaurant or in a movie or in a series a song, we're always shazamming it and adding it to playlists. So just make sure that all of your communication is coherent and everything leads you to the information of the band. If you I have done very important advertising campaigns with music from artists, and they haven't been clever enough to get the most out of it, to get the juice out of that or out of those opportunities. So if you don't care about getting your CEO good and all of your information out there and connecting all of your media, not social media, with your own website, with your streaming platforms, with everything, then you will miss those opportunities. And we are very much into shazamming and searching and then following and buying tickets when you go to Mexico. So just try to take the most advantage of any sync opportunity that you can get, and be open and be fast. We, as every music supervisor in the world, we are always looking for music that can be cleared as soon as possible. So be ready. This is one of the most important things that I think you should know as managers. Help them to get all of their registrations and all of their agreements in order, and all of the information that we need. So when you get a message from one of us, you can answer as fast as possible. Be ready.
And does that include any translation? Like, is there anything, bios, anything like that we should have ready, translated for any opportunities that might come up?
I don't think bios that much, but all of the technical, legal, administrative information of the tracks is super important. Just have a cue sheet, like a spreadsheet with all the metadata from all of your tracks. And these should include basic information of the track, obviously, besides the title, the artists, album, and then ownership. Who are the composers, their PROs, their IPIs, their ISWCs, publishers, and then descriptions of the music. When you share music, try to include descriptions of it, because we won't be able to listen to the music right away. So, but we will be able to store your email in a database where
search
we
it.
can then search with keywords.
And that's so, and those keywords are fine to be in English.
In English, yes,
Yeah,
it's okay.
okay.
We totally get that most of the market and most of music supervisors are English
Work in
speaking.
English.
Claro, it's an English speaking environment, so it doesn't matter. Just write in English and it's okay. We all of us we speak in English and it's okay. You don't need translations. If you are in, I don't know, Greece, maybe Italy is not that bad. We understand a lot of Italian, but English is perfect. We can deal with that.
Okay, great. So yeah, make sure you have things at least in English. Malfi, I wanted to touch on we have quite a few questions I want to make sure we get to, but I wanted to touch on the marketing side of things. Like, what is effective in, obviously there's general social media things that are effective, but are there any trends or particular things that you're seeing working? Any examples of international artists you can think of that have come into the market and done things really effectively to build audiences there?
Yeah, I think as Max said, there's like nobody really understands the massiveness of Mexico until they come here or they do something with Mexico. So the things that we've noticed in the PR and marketing world is when artists do a strategy focused on the territory. So that means, for example, an out-of-home campaign strategy that has promo that only exists in Mexico, promo in Spanish on social media, anything geo-targeted to the territory, but that is made for that territory, which means talking to their audience, talking to their Mexican audience. Google Translate can make it a funny moment when they're trying to translate things, and it can be viral and stuff like that. So to be honest, there's a lot of thought. a lot of our artists hire kind of like a global marketing company, and it's based on London, or it's based on Sweden, or it's based on whatever country the artist is from. So when they target Latin America, they're targeting in a global spectrum and in a global strategy. When a lot of our artists have noticed that getting local teams in Mexico actually benefits the growth in the territory, and since Mexico is a trigger city, it evolves into a growth in their numbers that is beneficial for the campaigns. So what I've seen is that all the artists that have, for example, expecting crowd for them to come to Mexico, and then they announce the tour in Mexico in a very interesting way that only the Mexicans can understand. Like, I have an artist that yesterday they released a photo of him, of one of the members of the band wearing a Chivas jersey, which is one of a soccer jersey here in Mexico, and soccer is huge in Mexico, no?
Yeah.
And one of like those little things that make up for talking to the territory, not just a hi Mexico, it's kind of like a subtext that the fact that they're paying attention actually benefits on the long term. So yeah, it's understanding that the way of the Mexican consumption of social media is it's not completely different, but it's most appreciated when the artist talks to the bands directly. So for example, OCESA is doing a really cool, well, they all do this, but I've noticed a lot in artists from OCESA that they get the band to say like, hi Mexico, I'm blah blah blah, and I'm gonna go to a show or whatever. And recently Paul McCartney did it, and we were all like, he's talking to me. And I know it's Paul McCartney, and it's a really stupid example. Well, it's not a stupid example, but it's kind of like one of those things where you go like, well, if he's doing it, I might as well do it, so let's try.
I really like that. And just further to that, to explore a little bit, if we have budget for one member of staff in Mexico, like hiring somebody, because you said that some people are getting Mexican teams now, where would you recommend we spend that money?
Digital marketing. And this is something that I always tell to my clients, because it is it is not for me safe to say like hire someone else before you hire me. And the thing is that I would say like, yes, of course, hire a PR agency, but to be honest, media in Mexico, as it is in the rest of the world, is a luxury. You hire a PR agency to kind of like promote and say it out loud that you're doing it, you're doing a good job somewhere else in the world. And what we do is like we take your interviews and we take your releases and we put them in the media, and you can show it off on social media, and it can be like a luxury. It's like buying I see it kind of like it's a buying like a luxury item, like a cool watch that you want to have, and you have money to spend on something that will not give you a return of investment. Digital marketing will. So if you're able to buy someone from, no, I'm just kidding. If you're able to hire someone from Mexico or Latin America, because there's awesome Brazilian, Chilean, and Colombian marketing agencies that understand the entire territory, and they have partners all over the Latin America. And for example, something that I always treasure and value from Movida Musica is that they're understanding the territory by hiring people from the territory, which is something that is really valuable. And Sandra there, who is in charge of her DSPs and press, is someone who has worked in the industry for a long, long time and understands what's going on. So of course you want to hire someone who has knowledge of the territory, has been here for a while, has been working Mexico for a while, and has a lot of success stories within the digital marketing, because that is our business card now. And for me, it's going to be easier to share your story if your story is strong in social media, no? If you have a good marketing company or a marketing agency, in my eyes, through communication, of course, I am not part of the label services and I am not part of the promotion services. But if you were to ask me who is in charge of communication, I would definitely say marketing. I know that takes away some clients away from my roster, but it's fine. I'd rather work with people who understand the value of talking to the audience than someone who expects the press to make the band big in Mexico, which doesn't happen. Doesn't happen anywhere in the world.
Yeah, it's a very similar story wherever you go, I think. But that's that's super interesting. I think the real thing we're taking away here is target Mexico specifically. Do not treat it as like part of the US or just like an add-on, or it really has to be done specifically. And it's not a monolith as a country either. It has many different elements to it. So that's great. I'm just going to go on to some of the questions. So any of you obviously jump in if you have anything to say. But how about collaborations between European artists and Mexican ones? How is it easier? How to get an easier introduction, or how does it happen? Like, any advice for building those collaborations?
I would probably give the same advice as I would give regardless of territory, and that way more often than not, what I find to be successful is that even if I, as a manager, have a contact with the manager of some hotshot artist that an artist I work with wants to work with, way more often than not, if they just send them a DM, it will work way better than going through somebody on the industry side.
Fair. I'm sure it can't hurt as well to just build a few Mexican manager contacts who have those fingers in lots of pies and understand the industry.
Yeah, for sync, just add in your email when you are sending information to supervisors, just add information of available for collaborations, for bespoke music, and like, for example, things like quick production abilities, because we're always looking for quick things. So just add that information along with all of your description. And we tend to like commissioned music for projects, like at least like one song if we want to promote the movie or the series. And we tend to look for collaborations to get together, just to get to a lot of another territories. That's really important. We tend to produce content that will be streamed in a lot, so that's helpful for us. Just a quick parenthesis regarding the amount of productions that we are seeing right now. We are living the post bubble that we just went through. So COVID and post-COVID just generated a lot of productions and investments that haven't been able to recoup all of the money. So now we are producing about 30-40% of what we used to produce, and all of the budgets are also cut down in sometimes 50-60%. So we are going back to pre-COVID production, amounts.
Right.
Also take on account that impacts directly on the amounts that we will offer for your music, for the licensing. So don't be surprised if you are getting like what might seem low budgets, but for Mexico are totally normal because our budgets are always suffering, and now more than before. So yes, we're getting investments, less productions, and less money, but we are still producing a lot of content. So
There's still opportunities.
yes, because as Malfi and we all have said, it's a huge country, and we produce content not only for Mexico but also for Latin America and other countries, and Spain, like Iberoamerica in general.
Mhm.
So yes, we are still producing a lot.
Great. Thank you so much for that insight. Ali, we have a question for you. Is it harder to get on the Mexico City EDC lineup because of the booking agency, or do we need a bigger booking agency name like Wasserman UTA? Because we are with an independent and working with an independent, we are independent and we're working with an independent booking agency. Does that mean it's just harder to get on the lineups? Sorry, you're muted. Just saying.
Yeah, sorry. No, I mean, not gonna lie, obviously the bigger agency does have like a bit of a upper hand, because they, as I said, we do this along Insomniac, and most of the lineup is curated by both of us. It's like it's a team effort on this. So it's like there is a little upper hand for those agencies because they usually work with Insomniac more and more on their festivals, so there's like a bigger relationship there. But it's not necessarily that does not necessarily mean you need to be working with them to get into EDC Mexico. There's like, because we do have a say on this as well. And the most important thing for us is to see if the project is going somewhere, like we're standing in Mexico right now. Does it also make sense with the lineup that we have like right now? Like those are the bigger things that we do focus on to like bring more DJs or new DJs to like EDC Mexico. Like obviously we're trying to push all the locals, to put also some like Mexican artists so they'll have the exposure, try to have them grow. But at the same time, we tend to bring some like artists as well from like other places if their music makes sense with the lineup that we're building, which is usually how we tend to do the lineup. We usually work on the headliners and then from there, we go down. So the question is no, you don't need to work with them. It's just a matter of, getting to know your artist more and see where it makes sense and if we can make it work.
Do you look to any other events, and like, are there any other, especially Mexican events that you're like, we keep an eye on their lineup and see, what's trending, what's doing well, and pick it up?
Yeah, I mean, not much in Mexico because, we have all the big festivals here. But like outside of Mexico, we do tend to like have a look at what other festivals are doing to see what's also trending like in other places, what we're maybe missing out because, even though the world's global, there tend to be sometimes where like artists are like huge somewhere else and they haven't made their way to Mexico.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of time. And like sometimes looking at other lineups does help a lot.
Can you tell us any of the lineups that you particularly are interested in, or?
I mean, I tend to look at a lot of festivals, to be honest. I look at, I don't know, Tomorrowland. I look at Ultras all over the world. I look at other EDCs all over the world. A lot of festivals in the US, like Governor's Ball, I don't know, Lost Lands, Outside Lands. Like, I do tend to Lollapalooza, so like even in South America, like we do kind of like to like look at all the festivals, Greenfields, Glastonbury, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
like,
Well,
yeah.
it's just, yeah, just in case it could be useful for someone to say, hey, I played this festival, you know, this is one that you pay attention to. So it could be a good point of connection. Just so we can get through the last couple of questions. Someone says, Michael says, sorry, I've heard in each state in Mexico tends to have at least one free public festival run by the municipality. Is it a viable avenue for smaller acts to be invited to play those? Does anyone?
I'm gonna say it's a little hard, if I'm honest.
Okay.
It's not that easy to get on those. And honestly, since it's government money, the persons that usually like are the promoters there or the booking agents from that, they tend to look to like what their Mexican crowd is looking at, but it's like usually like big acts, whether they're Latin or whether they're from outside, they tend to look at bigger acts that are already like really well established in Mexico. So it is a bit hard to get on those. Not impossible, but a little harder than to get into a festival owned by another like a private promoter.
And just to add to that international, in the way of international conversation, I understand that there are some festivals that invite artists from around the world. That doesn't happen here in Mexico, especially on those that you're not going to get invited to play to a festival, a governmental festival, because as Ali said, they're focused on the Latin and the Mexican artists that are going to bring more people, because normally it is always a political stance where they can share that they sold out the spot. There are some opportunities where you might be able to be invited, but logistically it's a nightmare. Because the people that do those festivals are not music people in a way.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you have to be Mexican or Spanish speaking to understand every single tiny little detail, and it's still going to be a little bit of a nightmare. So yeah, we don't suggest
Don't
those.
recommend it.
No.
Just quickly, questions are really coming in now, sorry. Alvaro says, I would like to know how much, if that's the case, you think streaming impact on ticket sales in the Mexican market. If you think there's a real impact on the market between consumption metrics and the ticket sales. I understand you guys have done some research on that. Does anyone have anything to add?
I think it is very correlated, if I'm honest. I know like there are artists that have a better conversion, which probably trends to like, you know, their works on some other things like socials and I don't know, their labels helping them put their image out there in Mexico. But it is very correlated. Like better streams tend to like sell more tickets in Mexico.
And one last question. If I see a lot of electronic festivals, are there any festivals geared towards Afro hip hop in Mexico?
I would venture to say no, specifically. There is a expat community of Black people, predominantly from the United States, living in Mexico City right now, who have a party series called Diaspora that may be worth looking into. And they hosted a stage at Ceremonia Festival, one of the major festivals, earlier this year. So that's probably your best avenue to look.
Cool. Yeah, I can see like there's one in Cancun and stuff like that, which is probably mostly American audience. Great. Just quickly, before we go, I would love each of you to share with us like a company or it can be a radio station, anything like that you want to shout out, that you work with international artists that our audience here should check out, and we will make sure that they do. Who wants to go first? Malfi?
I can just be, I mean, Malfi and I have low-hanging fruit of being able to say our own companies to a certain extent, or we could say each other's if that's easier and a little bit more accessible. But yeah, to reiterate, Movida Musica, where we lead a team here in which we help artists from around the world expand in a few different avenues. So on the touring and on the release side, it's MOVIDA space MUSICA.
If you can share a link in the chat, that would be amazing. Malfi, did you want to go next?
I can recommend Movida Música more. They really do an amazing job, and the fact that they have kind of like a 360 outlook onto everything, and they can support every single aspect of the territory is great. Sometimes MalfiCo is beneficial when artists already have a label that is already funding the entire territory. For example, we work with Virgin, who has Joaline, and we work specifically with Joaline through management. So they have a second support in the territory, which is really great. I'll add the Instagram because the website's not working right now, but next week it'll be fine.
Oh yeah.
But to be honest, something that works a lot with foreign artists is kind of like looking into which artists in Mexico, like similar artists that have already come to Mexico, and understand which festivals they played at, which media has talked about them, if they have some sort of strategy with Mexico, and approaching those artists and saying like, hey, let's do this together. You know what? Maybe find a similar artist in Mexico that could create a back and forth communication. Like sometimes a lot of Mexican artists are looking for someone to host them in Germany, or host them in Spain, or host them in France, or somewhere else, or in Poland, or stuff like that. And artists from those territories are looking into coming to Mexico, so they can create some sort of bond in between each other and help each other out in territories and become that bridge themselves. Because I can say names of media, and I can say names of radio stations and whatever, but at the end of the day, it might not work for everyone, you know?
But that doesn't matter. We are interested. So do share those that you're passionate about. This is what this is about. But it's okay.
Yeah, one of my favorite radio stations that understand the music expert is Ibero 90.9. They've always been a very alternative radio station. It's kind of like our version of KCRW. And they understand what's going on in the Mexican audience. And even though they don't play electronic artists, they welcome a special show for when EDC is happening. And maybe they outline artists that are not in the lineup but are worth listening to, you know? So it's kind of like one of those things where I think Ibero 90.9 is if they were in English, they'd be bigger in other parts of the world, I think, because their content is really cool.
Great, that's perfect. That's a great place for people to start. Ali, do you want to shout out anybody?
Honestly, no one specifically. I think these two guys, Max, Malfi, are really good point of contacts, you know, to try to bring your artists and put their image right here in Mexico. I've worked with both of them, and I think they're pretty good at it. And we'll definitely like recommend to working with them. You know, working with media in Mexico does help a lot for the image of the artist.
Nice, thanks. And Patricia, I'll give you a chance.
Yes, so there is a new company, a new sync agency in Mexico. It's called La Cucaracha, and is yes, it's led by Annette Fradera, who is like one of the most emblematic music supervisors in our industry. I'm gonna share with you, they don't have yet like a website, but I will share Annette's email, so you can email her, and if you're interested to having like a representation for a sync agent over there, I am going to be working with Annette to connect La Cucaracha's catalog around. And also, obviously, La Asociación, the Association of Music Supervisors, Spanish-speaking music supervisors. This is the email. You can, if you don't share your music through the disco link that I already sent, you can send an email with your information. Just please make sure to add all of your metadata information and also descriptions of the music that you are sharing. Do not send files, attached files. That's killing the servers everywhere. But to send links to stream your music that don't expire. I have synced music that I received like 3 years ago. So please, non-expirable links and descriptions. That's the most important. And that's it. If you want to connect with the audiovisual media in Mexico, this is the way. This is the way.
Really good. Thank you so much, all of you. Sorry for going over, but we just had so much to fit in. It's a huge, exciting market, and we really appreciate your insights and your connections as well. And I hope everyone watching has a lot of work to do now to go away, check out all of these links, and understand the Mexican market better. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.